Welcome back to The Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian, my brother Pete joining shortly, and we will be discussing the likelihood of the big, beautiful bill passing, because that's why the Dow is churning 440 points higher at mid-session. We'll break down the rest of the news today, macro minute, fantastic futures, and sports, all in the next 15 seconds. It starts. Bang!
It's official.
Official. Bang.
A wild ride today, John. I mean, you got, the Dow, as you mentioned in the opening there, it's ripping today. It really is ripping. And, it didn't start off that way necessarily either at the very beginning of the day, but boy, it's been great, gaining a little bit of momentum as we got a little deeper into the morning and into the afternoon here.
That's a fact. And that is Pete Najarian, folks. I'm Jon Najarian, and we're bringing you the Rebel's Edge. We've got one more this week, one more Rebel's Edge. Why aren't we doing one Thursday? Because Thursday is a half day. We are done trading at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's 12 Central. So we will not have a Rebel's Edge on Thursday. We will have one tomorrow, and I think it's Pete and Justin tomorrow.
Yep.
Justin Timberlake will be joining Pete for the Rebels.
Nugent, Ted Nugent. Wait a minute.
Oh, geez, Nugent. And folks, it's a wild week and a wild day today. Let's dive in, Pete, to Macro Minute.
Sure.
I'm going to say for the first time in a long time, macro isn't wars. It isn't tariffs. It's instead, we do have 90-day reciprocal tariffs coming our way on July 9th if the president doesn't decide that he's had enough at this point of winning. But nonetheless, the market is thinking that we're going to be smooth sailing. You'll be able to tell that from Pete with the VIX.
Yeah, and I'll say this, John, about what you were just talking about with July 9th. I think that date is potentially flexible, quite frankly, because the president, as everybody probably heard, started kicking around some thoughts about, we can get this done by Labor Day. And I think that's just kind of like throwing it out there to see what people's reaction would be. So will we be, in a panic or whatever, or reaction to July 9th? I think we're going to probably hear a little bit more from the president, from Bessent, and all the rest of the characters as we get a little closer to that date already.
Well, Pete, what about this one? For fantastic futures today, I'm going to talk about 10-year, but I'm really going to talk about Jerome Powell, who is showing more and more his true colors, Pete, because this guy now says that the Fed would have cut by now if it weren't for tariffs. He really wants to tease the dragon here, apparently, Pete, the dragon being President Trump. And he wants to say, hey, it's your fault that I haven't cut because of tariffs. Really? Weren't you the guy, one of many, saying that tariffs were going to act like a tax on the American taxpayer, on the citizens, and thus hold back inflation? But no, instead now he says, Pete, hey, I would have cut by now if Trump hadn't put tariffs on. Sounds a little suspicious to me, Pete.
It could be a little suspicious. As far as what's going on in the market with volatility is telling us that the market has found itself into a bit of a comfort zone, John. And obviously we are basically in a market that we're trading somewhere closer to or less than 1%. We haven't seen a lot of the major just dumps for a while now. We've seen a lot of moves to the upside and some pretty powerful moves to the upside. The one thing that I wanted to throw out there to you, John, is gas prices. We talk about oil all the time. We talk about that oil volatility index and the fact that it's gotten absolutely hammered, and it has been. But the reality is, when you look at gas prices, we're at the lowest levels since 2021. At $3.18 is the national average, but there are quite a few different areas in the country where it's $2.50 or lower, even in some cases. So gives you a little bit of an idea of where we are right now. Is 31 cents less than it was year over year. So that's a big number. I think it's pretty impressive. It's very telling. And I think people are going to be pretty happy as they're driving around, if they're driving around for July, going to different parties and everything else, because those gas prices have absolutely been going this way in a good way.
Yep, in a very good way. And that's, of course, one of the things that they strip out, Pete. Food and energy is what they strip out when they look at inflation and so forth. They give us both flavors, of course, but they say, well, if you take out the volatile food and energy sectors, then we're, X, Y, and Z. All right, let's talk about Tesla, Pete, and Elon Musk, because they are forever interlinked. And right now, the question is it JP Morgan's analysts, Pete, that are predicting maybe 19% year-over-year decline in Tesla deliveries? Is that why Tesla's down hard today? Or is it because he has chosen once again to fight with the most powerful man on the planet? So when you've got the richest man on the planet on this side, Pete, and the most powerful man on the planet on this side, that's going to be a pretty ugly fight. And it was last time they fought, and apparently they're going at it again because Musk doesn't like the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, the tensions have been rising. Musk has been very open about what he thinks about it, certainly. And the president is always going to be pretty open on how he responds to that. So that is, I think, what's probably dragging down Tesla. Because let's be honest, Elon Musk is a guy who came back to Tesla, and pretty much right when he came back, the stock actually turned and burned and started making the moves that it normally made when he was always sitting there. But I think the other thing that we have to look at, John, is he's focused not just on what's going on this moment with Tesla, but as we know, he has a lot of different hats. He juggles a lot of different things. AI, he's talking about robo-taxis, all these things. He is always moving and always going in a direction that, that he chooses to go with. And I think because of that, is he going back and forth with the president? Yes, he is. He's had a lot of commentary back and forth. And I think, sometimes that does get people a little bit concerned. And I don't think that the JP Morgan analyst was helping him much either, because I think that's part of the reason why it's been struggling right around $300, down, call it 5-6%, something like that. But it's had a pretty nice move, John, in a fairly short period of time as well to the upside.
Well, how about this one with a very short-term, very quick move to the upside, Pete? Mesoblast.
Yeah.
So these guys have a biologics license application, or a BLA, and that is for something that targets ischemic health, or rather heart failure, Pete. And Pete is probably one of the only people who knows what the hell that is that's watching this right now. But the stock jumped as much as 14% early on, Pete. This is good news, of course. They have to still pass muster later this year, but they are on track to basically do that. And that's why Mesoblast is blasting to the upside, Pete.
Yeah, Australian biotech, they're doing a lot of great work, John, and they're doing it in an area that, that not everybody wants to be there, because it's a small set. It's a rare disease treatment world that they're in. And they've got their orphan drug exclusive approval from the FDA. I think this is a company that's doing unbelievable work at what they're doing. And obviously, we're all pulling for them to have success along the way. And certainly, I think they're in a position now where it seems like they are in the right spot at the right time, and they can continue on to get this thing so it can get out there for folks. And, up to $12. The high is 22 over the last 52 weeks. So it's got a long ways to get back up there, but it's interesting to see that they're doing so well. I love what they're doing, and this is something that's going to be great for the future. Now, can it be profitable enough for them as well? Unfortunately, that's always a piece of the puzzle, right? I mean, they've got to be profitable with it, but right now, I think that they've done what they need to do to be able to get themselves into position to get this thing out there for people in the future.
Well, how about this one, Pete? And it may have been foretold by some unusual option activity. That's right, folks, because Melco, MLCO, they're basically the big dog when it comes to Macau. And their revenue numbers for June were blowout fashion. Macau gross gaming revenue jumped 19% year over year, or about $2.6 billion, according to data published by the Gaming Inspection and Coordination Bureau in China. this is a pretty big move. And two stocks in particular, Pete, that aren't Melco were reacting very strongly to this news. Win, because there's a win over there, and LVS, because there's an LVS over there too, Pete. Now, they haven't declared what their numbers are yet, but people are doing a read through, Pete, and both those stocks had unusual option activity. There you see it from what Jared's posting, folks. That unusual option activity in LVS was 10x the initial investment. It was $18 an option, Pete, because 18 cents times 100 shares, that's $18. So for $180, you could have turned that into $1,800.
Yeah.
That's the kind of performance you can get out of options, folks. And that's why Pete and I love options instead of just plain stock.
And we use the word leverage to describe it all the time, John. That's exactly what it is. It gives you leverage. Now, you do have some negatives, which is it's got to happen within a time frame and all the rest of it. That's the world of options. But, you know, for what you're doing from a leverage perspective, when you get hits like this, that makes up for a lot of misses along the way if you've had those as well. So I'll tell you what, John, I looked at this one. We had that huge option activity that we'd seen in Win. We also see it in Las Vegas Sands just yesterday. And then all of a sudden, of course, you get this monster pop. Citi estimates that they're going to be up about 6% year over year for the second half of the year as well. So they're projecting things that are pretty positive into the future. And I will say this, you know, you and I talk about these names, Win, Las Vegas Sands. I'll tell you what, Macau is where they're making the real money. They're doing fine here in the U.S., but let me tell you something. It's over in Macau where, especially Las Vegas Sands, that's where the bread and butter is, and that's where they're making the big bucks. And it's amazing how strong things looked in the month of June. That was incredible. You mentioned it already, but 19% year over year, that's how much they were up. That's a monstrous move. This isn't just like some startup. This isn't an AI. This is gambling. These are casinos. So really, really impressive what they're doing over there, especially in Macau.
Well, are you impressed with Planet Labs, Pete? Because symbol PL, Planet Labs, Germany has secured a multi-year, basically $240 million satellite services deal, and that's funded by the German government. So basically, Planet Labs is going to provide dedicated downlink services on their satellites over European regions. Big deal. And I mean that. I'm not saying, oh, big deal. No, it is a big deal. Obviously, Elon Musk has his Starlink. There are several other competitors out there. But for Planet Labs, Pete, unusual activity rears its head and certainly pays off because, gosh, they were buying, Pete, the July 4 calls when the stock was 327. Today, the stock explodes through 640, I think.
772. 772
was the high? Oh, my. Well, that's a fantastic move. Obviously, $3.72 above the $4 strike. So if you bought 35-cent options when the stock was at 327, and those 4 calls turned into what? $2.72, Pete? Not bad. Not bad at all.
No, this one is a monster. And the volume that we're seeing in there, John, is absolutely incredible today. I mean, it's 4 times the average in the first 2 hours of the day. Average for a full day, 4 times that number. So pretty impressive. And, you know, these guys are doing so many different things right. And they've got 4 major awards that they were able to get. So the solutions for defense and the intelligence sector, all those things, John, you talked about that $240 million contract. All of that, you put that together. This is a stock that has a little bit of short interest. I don't know if that was part of it, you know, a little bit of a squeeze early on when it hit those highs. But I will say this, it's been up 54% year to date. It's been up 62% just in the last month and having a really, really good day today. So this is a stock that has been on a tear and certainly one that I think you, if nothing else, you want it on your radar just to see how are they doing, where are they going? And we all know that there's a lot of different areas that they cover that are a big deal in the world right now. AI, you know, enabled and all the rest of it. That's huge. And I think if you're anywhere in the defense and intelligence world, you're also in for a good sort of a positioning right now, I think. So really, really excited about what this company is doing right now and how they've done it and how fast they're ripping right now so far this year. Unbelievable.
Yeah, over 32 million shares change hands versus just under 7 million on a normal day. So like Pete said, this is very, very strong move to the upside. And folks, if you want to get some trades like that, absolutely follow that link that Jared's putting up there, because we would love to have you as a Market Rebellion subscriber. You get a lot of great information. You get signals throughout the week, and maybe you're one of them that gets a 10x return on some of your invested money instead of, oh, I made 4% today. It's much better on the option side. That's why Pete and I say it's not an option to just trade stocks anymore. All right, Pete. Well, we're heading into sports.
It's pretty exciting, John, because yesterday we broke down the AFC and we decided to look at each and every one of those different divisions. And I think it would be kind of fun. Now it's time to the NFC. So the AFC yesterday, the NFC today. So NFC, who do you got in the East, John? You could have Philly, who obviously is probably the front runner, right? They won the Super Bowl. They did a great job in free agency. I got to tell you, there's something about the Washington team that really is intriguing. And unless he steps back just a little bit, Jaden Daniels, the quarterback who was unbelievable last year, they've got a lot of talent on that ball club, and they weren't that far away from Philly. So I'm going to go with a dark horse maybe a little bit, but I'm going to go with Washington actually to win the East. How about you? What do you think about the East right now?
Well, and you make a great point, because the Commanders, Pete, went into Detroit, and Detroit heavily favored, and they mopped them up. I mean, it really wasn't that close, Pete. They dominated Detroit, and nobody had dominated Detroit. But it certainly looked like they were on the road to the Super Bowl last year, and then all of a sudden they ran into that meat grinder that is Philadelphia. Yeah. So until they get over that hump, I'm going to stick with Philly on the East, Pete.
I think that's a smart move. I'm kind of going off in fantasy land maybe a little too much, but I think they're really impressive, and the coaching staff to the GM to everybody. I mean, they turned over everything, and they flipped it around very quickly. How about the NFC North? Now, you just brought up Detroit. We got the Vikings. Everybody thinks the Vikings are unbelievable. I think the Bears have done a really good job, John, piecing things together. They stole a coach from Detroit. You've got Green Bay. They got a good quarterback with Love, and they've got, a coach who really, I think the players love playing for him. I'm going to go with Detroit only because I've always loved Dan Campbell. I think the world of that guy, and I think that, they can do it again. Now, they lost two coordinators, the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, so they got a lot of work in front of them, but I still think Detroit right now is kind of the top of the North.
Well, I'm going to go with your Vikings, Pete, because of J.J. McCarthy, and because, as you said accurately, they lost two coordinators. And I think Campbell's great, and he can motivate those troops, but who is going to be his offensive coordinator in terms of, is he going to be as good as the guy that went to the Bears? And time will tell, maybe. And also, is Hutchinson coming back as strong as ever, Pete? Because they really missed him, as great as the defense is, and they're a defensive team sort of like the Ravens are, Pete, and like the Steelers are. But Hutchinson has to come back strong. And if he doesn't, I think J.J. McCarthy, who was injured, of course, as well, but he has looked great in mini camp, OTAs and all that. So I'm going with the Vikings, Pete.
I like that pick. I like it. I got Detroit with that one, but I think it is difficult when you've lost two coordinators. Not just one's tough enough, but two, that's pretty brutal. There's something about Dan Campbell and what he does that I think that the players just live for having him as their coach. All right, in the South, my old Buccaneers. I'm going to go with those guys, John, in the South. And if you look, and a lot of people don't always pay all this much attention. I know you do and I do, but Baker Mayfield has turned into a really good quarterback in the NFL, and people don't fully understand that. I mean, because of the fact that well, let's be honest. He laid an egg up there in Cleveland when he went so high in the draft, right? Then he goes to Carolina, didn't do a whole heck of a lot, made a stop here, a stop there. He goes to Tampa, and he has found a home, John. As a matter of fact, Mahomes if you look at the last 2 years at their stats, I encourage people to do it. Look at what Baker Mayfield's stats look like for the last 2 years and look at Patrick Mahomes' stats look like for the last 2 years. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked when they see that. So I think that Tampa is a damn good football team, and I think Baker Mayfield is the guy who can lead them on. So with the receivers they've got, the offensive line that they've got, the tight ends, the running backs, all the things that they've got, I think Baker Mayfield and that offense are going to be pretty damn good. Very, very difficult to stop this year.
I agree. I won't belabor the point. You hit all the top ones there, Pete. So I'm going to say Buccaneers in the South, but that still leaves the West. So who do you have in the West?
I think the West, what's fun about that one, John, I'm going to go with probably a dark horse here. And they used to always be the favorite. San Francisco 49ers, man. They had so many injuries last year and had so many guys out, for 5 games. This guy's out for 8 games. This guy. And you know what? Injuries, are they excuses? Sure, they can be excuses. But let's be honest. When you lose your left tackle, when you lose McCaffrey, who I think is the best player in the entire NFL, when you lose a guy like that and you lose a tight end who gets hurt here and there, then you lose a couple receivers who got banged up, then you lose linebackers who got banged up. I mean, everywhere you look, John, you say to yourself, well, how the hell did these guys even do it? I mean, they had guys, literally getting banged up every single week and not able to play the following week. So I think that there's going to be a different ball club this year. They got to stay healthy, obviously. But if they can do that, I think the 49ers go right up to the top once again in the West.
Well, I won't totally disagree, Pete. And I know some people are picking a dark horse with the Cardinals. I don't like that pick, but I do like the Rams. And the thing here is that you described the injuries. San Francisco, they have that one tackle who's damn near, ancient, Pete, that huge tackle.
Trent Williams.
But he was hurt and played hurt. And it's a question, how much damage did he do to himself playing hurt last year? But the Rams don't have a lot of depth. So it's really tough for me to say without seeing them. Christian McCaffrey will come back strong. I believe that. Obviously, their tight end situation is great. The quarterback got the big contract, Purdy. So I like the 49ers, but I'm going to take the Rams, Pete, and saying even if they don't have the same depth as the 49ers might have, they have a team that I think is ready to win the West. So I'm going to go with the Rams and Matthew Stafford.
Good coach, good quarterback, good team, really good team last year. So all good reasons. By the way, guy, on a side note, Ben Barsh is an offensive lineman for the 49ers who's a starter and was starting last year, John, the last 5 or 6 games. The reason I bring up that name, you know where he played his college football at?
Where?
St. John's University right up the road there. Division III football player. The kid's an absolute beast of a guy. And he got a little famous the year that he came out because he was down at the combines and he was showing one of the TV personalities what his shakes look like that he makes that are his power shakes. And I'll tell you what, he's a beast of a football player, John. 6'6", about 330. He's the right guard for the 49ers. He's a good guy to watch. He's a fun kid. And Division III, I mean, you got to give him all the credit in the world. He got drafted by Jacksonville, and then he ended up over with the 49ers. All right, we got a second one for you, a real quick one. Pittsburgh Steelers, are these guys all in or what? So here's what they've done, John, just in the last few months at the end of the season. So Mike Tomlin's been there forever. He's one of the great coaches, I think, in NFL history, quite frankly. And the problem is he just can't get back over the hump. But the guy wins. He wins, and they've only had, three coaches in the franchise history or something like that for Pittsburgh, John? It's something crazy like that. And he's one of them. He's been there a hell of a long time. So is he going all in? Well, we all know about the Aaron Rodgers part of it, right? Now they went out and they made a big trade just yesterday, John. They got rid of Fitzpatrick, and they picked up Jalen Ramsey, who is a very big corner from the Dolphins, who can also, and it looks like that's what they want to do, they're going to put him at sort of a safety / corner position. They also got a tight end out of the deal, but they signed DK Metcalf. They just got Darius Slay, one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. They got Joey Porter, another hell of a cornerback, one of the best in football. And then you got Jalen Ramsey, one of the best quarterbacks in football. And then they go out in the draft and they pick up a few more defensive players. I think that they are building something. They've got some age on one side of it, right? So I think they're building something for this year. And I think that I'm going with the Steelers, John, because I think Tomlin and these guys, it's not that they're desperate. I think that they're smart and they're attacking right now and saying, you know what? With Aaron Rodgers as our quarterback and all we got to know, I do have one more person we got to sign, TJ Watt. Why haven't they signed him? I have no idea because he's one of the very best in the game, but they will, I think. I don't think they're going to let him go. But I'll tell you what, John, that is a team that I think is pretty loaded to be able to do what they need to do on the defensive side and now on the offensive side. You can't say that about the offense the last 3, 4, 5 years, but now I think you can.
Well, and here's one of the reasons that the Bears have sucked, Pete. I'm going to tie it in with Tomlin because he's been there 17 years, Pete.
Yeah.
Think of that, folks. 17 years. The Bears have had 7 coaches during that time. Lovie Smith, Mark Trestman, John Fox, Matt Nagy, Matt Eberflus, Tom Brown, and then Ben Johnson. You want to know why the Steelers win? Because they have stuck with a winner and because he has really just outperformed in terms of picking players that fit into his scheme. The Bears have just, screwed up. They screwed up Fields, Pete. We'll see. I don't think Ben Johnson's going to screw up Caleb Williams, but man, when you have 7 coaches in 17 years, it's kind of like when you look at, well, why were the Packers so good? Well, because they had Favre for years and years, and then they had Aaron Rodgers for years and years. Meanwhile, the Bears would be new quarterback, new quarterback, new quarterback, new quarterback. So longevity is a big deal in the NFL, and it's not just players, it's coaches. And that's one of the reasons I think you're absolutely right, Pete, about Tomlin being one of the premier coaches of all time. Mm-hmm. Look at the Super Bowl wins. Look at him with what he did developing Ben Roethlisberger and so forth. I mean, this guy is a stud.
He is a stud. Yep. And you know where he came from before he was at got to Pittsburgh? Minnesota Vikings, right down the street, right here.
Everything always goes back to Minnesota with Pete, folks.
It does.
All right. Well, if you want to see Pete and Justin Timberlake tomorrow on the Rebels Edge, it'll be Pete and Justin, 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be flying up to Michigan, Pete, for a little R&R and
nice.
The 4th of July holiday. So I'll bid you guys adieu, and I'll leave you in the very capable hands of Pete and Justin Nugent tomorrow. See you then, folks.